One of the best thing about being at a soap vendor's table at a craft show or somewhere else is getting to smell all the wonderful scents and different smells that they have available when they're making their soap. It's just one of the best things about being live there. You can actually smell the soap instead of being online and trying to like guess at what those scents might smell like. Some of our customers get to the point where they can't even decide because there are so many great options. They just have a hard time choosing sometimes. As a soap maker, you get to decide what scents are going in your soaps. This is one of the fun and exciting pieces where your creativity can just go wild on what do you want your soaps to smell like. But this topic can also feel a little daunting when you're just getting started because there are so many options. How do you know how to get started? Grab your favorite beverage, a cozy beverage, and a pen, and let's chat about fragrance in soap making. What are you doing? Did you lose it under there? Is it under there? Are you sure? Maybe. Hey. Hi. So what can you use to add scent to your soap making? Basically, you're going to be looking for a fragrance oil. And we are assuming in this video that you are doing cold process soap making. That means you're making lye soap, CP soap, whatever you want to call it there. But we're using lye and oils. We're doing the saponification reaction between oils and lye. If you have like a chunk of something that you're melting and planning to just pour that as soap, that's called melt and pour, and that's a different process. So you're going to need to research how to fragrance that kind of soap making in a different video, I guess. But in this video, we're dealing with lye soap, cold process soap making, and you're going to be looking for a fragrance oil for that to add scent to your soap. You can also use essential oils. We're going to get to that in just a second. But first of all, the fragrance oils. First of all, you need to make sure that when you are looking for a fragrance oil for your soap, that it is a fragrance that is intended for cold process soap making. There are a lot of fragrances out there, and not all of them work with the chemistry of cold process soap making. Some of them mess up the chemistry. So you need to make sure that your fragrance is intended for cold process soap making. And it'll say it right on the bottle. It'll say intended for use in cold process, maybe behaves well in cold process. They may shorten that to CP. And if you see that on your fragrance, that's a great one, and you're totally good to go with that. But you also need to make sure that, especially as a beginner, that you have a high quality fragrance oil that you're working with. Not every fragrance oil out there is going to be one that's going to behave well with your soap making. So you need to make sure that you've purchased one from a reputable company, like one that specializes in providing ingredients to people who are making soap specifically. Make sure that you're on a reputable website that way, or that you're in a good place that way. Not everybody who sells stuff on Amazon is giving you good quality stuff. So make sure you're on a place that actually sells good quality fragrances intended for soap making. Others can accelerate or cause your soap batter to heat up so much that they might even boil over. You just want to make sure that you're starting with a good thing, because then you'll be able to learn how to handle that well, and you'll be able to recognize one that maybe isn't as high quality later on. But you want to make sure you start with a good one so that doesn't trip you up. Also, you're going to want to make sure that we are dealing with a fragrance that is paraben and phthalate free. These are things that are just like they're health concerns. We want to make sure our fragrances don't have any of those in them. But also, there's an additional reason for that. Anyone who is looking to purchase a high-end soap, a goat milk soap that's going to cost them $6, $7, $8, $9, $10, $11, $12, however much is being charged, if they're looking to purchase a soap at that price point, they are making an investment in their skincare. They are purchasing a high quality item in their own mind, because they want to use this. They want to make sure their skin has the best. They're tired of the junk. They want to make sure they've got good stuff. And that applies also to the fragrance that is used in there. they're going to want to see that you have paid attention and that you've chosen a fragrance that is paraben and phthalate free. This is what they're going to want to see. Now, if that means that you need to buy a little bit more expensive of a fragrance than you were initially thinking, that's okay. That is an investment in your product, and your customers are going to be thrilled that you did that for them. So just make sure you've got those chosen, not only for health concerns, but also because it's a mark of a high quality soap that you chose a high quality fragrance where they're thinking about those kinds of things and eliminating those from the fragrance oil. So it's just what your customers want. When they're investing in your product, you want to make sure you have also invested in great ingredients to make that product as well. Now, how much scent do you start with? Let's just kind of set a benchmark here. So if you're working in a 10-inch loaf mold, if you don't know what that is, Google that. You'll find pictures of them. But it's basically 10 inches long, it's about yay wide, and it's a loaf mold. That means it's open on the top. If you're working in a 10-inch loaf mold, you have a 3-pound recipe of soap, or approximately that. And a good place to start with fragrance oils is to start with 1 ounce of fragrance for that whole batch of soap. So as you're mixing your soap batter, when you get toward the point that you're going to add the fragrance, just add 1 ounce to that batch and then let that cure and see how you like it. You can adjust from there a little bit. If you have a fragrance that you feel it's just too light, you can add a bit more than that. You can also back off from that if you feel like the fragrance is just too strong and you feel like you maybe don't prefer it that strong, or maybe your customers wouldn't prefer it that strong. You can totally back off from that as well. There is just like an element of your preference that you can adjust from there a little bit. Don't go too hog wild. I probably wouldn't double that. I maybe wouldn't like cut it in half, but you can adjust a little bit to your preference. However, remember that everybody's sense of smell is different, and everyone who comes and looks at your soap, their sense of smell is different. So what you feel like is the perfect amount of scent, you are going to hear people say, whoa, that's way too strong. And you're also going to hear people say, gosh, I wish this was stronger. I can barely smell it. And that is not a reflection on your product or on your decision for how much scent goes into your product. It's just a representation of everybody's sense of smell is different. Everybody smells like to different degrees and intensities. And it's just showing you that everybody's different. Everybody's going to prefer different soaps on your table. So it's actually good to have a variety of strengths in fragrance, so that if somebody comes and says, gosh, I really want a very light smelling soap, you know you've got one over here because you know that one's like doesn't present as well, or just presents a lighter scent. And if somebody comes and says, what's your best smelling soap, then you're probably going to want to go with one of the heavier ones. So having a variety available is also helpful as you are designing your soaps, the fragrance and the scent in your soaps. So here's the thing about fragrances. You think you have just a few, and then all of a sudden you put them in a cupboard and So this is what you must always remember about soap fragrances. You can never leave them in the cupboard together. They breed. So they all must be in their own separate container, separated from everyone else. Don't leave them together. Don't leave them beside each other. And I'm totally just kidding. But once you start purchasing fragrances for your soap making, it does tend to do this. So just be aware and be advised that this is totally a possibility. Can you use essential oils to fragrance your soap? And that answer is yes. You can absolutely add essential oils to your soap to add those wonderful smells that people are looking for. I would recommend that you practice this a little bit before you start to work with the high-end oils or the oils that are super expensive. Essential oils can be kind of pricey, so you're going to want to watch that and make sure that the oils you're planning to use are within your budget for what you're going to add to your soap. Soap supply places, lots of them also sell essential oils. I've labeled these in my own mind as soap grade essential oils, where I believe they're good enough to use in soap. They're definitely good enough to practice with in soap, but I probably wouldn't like use them topically or take them internally or anything. So these are soap grade essential oils. You get them at the same place you're going to look for your fragrance oils that we talked about before. These are great to practice with. And as you're practicing, you're going to want to ask a few questions about the oils you're trying. Does it affect the batter? Remember, you need to be practicing your unscented, uncolored soap first so that you personally are good at the skill of producing this batter. And then when you add the essential oils, watch. Does it change the batter in any way? And if you're good at doing this, you're going to be able to notice that right away if it does happen. Another thing you'll want to practice is blending the essential oils. Are you going to make just a lavender soap, or would you like to do lavender rosemary? And just kind of messing around with what does blending that look like? Which ones smell good together? And then what's those percentages? Like how do you blend it and how do you make that work well? How much to use is also a question. This goes back kind of to the fragrance oil question, but in essential oils, there's kind of an additional variable in place there. Not variable, but like an additional thing you want to think about, because you might like a super strong scented soap, but the essential oils have kind of a price inhibitor there where you don't want to add too much just because it's going to be more expensive to do that. So how much to use? How much can you put in and get a good scent, but not break the bank doing it? The other question you're going to want to mess around with is, will they survive the saponification process? Some essential oils don't make it through into the bar of soap so that you smell anything at all. Citrus especially is notorious for just not making it through that soaping process. So lemon or orange, those probably are not going to make it through. So as you're using those, you're just not going to smell much on the other end. So ones that do make it through, though, are lavender, anything green like tea tree, rosemary, patchouli, anything cinnamon or clove or spice like that, or mint. All of those make it through just fine. But just remember, some of those other more delicate oils or the citrus ones just might not make it through. So practice with those before you make a huge batch of that. Also, you're going to want to add the essential oil as late in the process as possible. So as you're working with your oils and your lye and your stick blending, get it certainly to trace before you add the essential oils. That will give the essential oils the best chance possible to survive and also to be more like a stronger scent once the bars are cut and it's curing. So just wait as long as possible to add the essential oils. Also, something to mess around with is kaolin clay can help set the scent of essential oils and help it to be more pronounced and also to last longer. So this is something to experiment with and see if this is something that you feel helps keep those essential oil scents around longer. In a 3-pound batch, remember that 10-inch mold that would be 3 pounds of soap batter? I would start with using 3 tablespoons of kaolin clay, and you can add more than that. That's okay, but just start there and then pay attention to those bars. Do those bars of soap seem to have a little more essential oil fragrance, a little bit longer, is a little bit stronger as you move along? So just to answer that question, does it help? And is it something that I want to use routinely in my essential oil soaps? So there's a lot of things to think about and to kind of mess around with as you are exploring adding essential oils to your soap and just seeing what that does to the end product. If you're wanting a place to start as you're thinking about essential oils in your soap making, for a single oil, lemongrass is a great option. This is a bright, uplifting scent that people really are very fond of. It's very clean, kind of reminds me of like kitchen kind of clean, like that kind of smell. This is a very popular one and one that our customers really like. And a blend that's a great place to start is cedarwood mint. Cedarwood is very like woodsy and earthy smelling, but the mint really brightens it up, and together these two oils make a great combination. And none of these oils is very expensive to get started with. So purchase a small bottle of either one, and these are just great places to start as you start walking down the path of adding essential oils to your soaps. Adding scent to your soap is just one of the pieces of soap making where your creativity can soar. There are literally thousands of fragrances out there that you can choose from. I think you will never get tired of scrolling through lists of different fragrances and trying to figure out what that one might smell like and ordering some samples so that you can figure it out and choose your next scent. It literally is just a lot of fun as you are designing your next soap project. But remember, you need to master the basics first. Make sure that you've got that, like that unscented, uncolored soap batter under control first, and then you can start experimenting with scent. Purchase a couple scents. Hold yourself back. Remember, there's a lot of scents out there. You don't need to have them all at once. Just get a couple that you really think would smell good to you. Purchase a couple of them just in small bottles. Use a moderate amount in your 3-pound soap batch. Just use an ounce there. And then learn what you prefer, what scents you really enjoy in soap making, and how much, like how much fragrance to add, whether you like them a little stronger or maybe a little bit less. If you'd like some help in getting started with choosing your first soap scents, we've prepared a download for you. It's in the comments below this video. It's our 10 most popular soap scents and kind of what they smell like, just a little descriptions there of what those are like. So you can maybe just get a little bit of a start on choosing those first couple scents that you're going to purchase for your soap making. Scent requires just a little bit of learning. Scent in soap making, there is a little bit of learning there. There are some things to be aware of. There are some things to practice and experiment with, but this is not something to be overly concerned about. Just follow the guidelines that I've listed out in this video and you're going to be just fine adding scent to not your first soap batches, but the soap batches later on, as you get to the point where you're ready to play around with fragrance in your soap. In our next video, we are going to discuss the concept of lather, because this is something we get asked all the time. Well, this is a pretty soap, but does it lather? And we're going to talk about what causes a soap bar to have lather or not, and how you can make sure that your soaps, even your goat milk soaps, are going to lather nicely and be maybe a pleasant surprise to your customers, your family, people you're giving gifts to, or whoever ends up using your soap. So we'll see you in the next video.